Hey, welcome back for another video. About a month ago, my girlfriend finished making me this woodworking apron, and I thought I would tell you all about it because it's actually became the most useful tool in my shop. Now, I put a ridiculous amount of time into trying to figure out all the core tools that I wanted to put on the apron, but some of the tools I think are going to be common to all of you as well as me. So things like some places for some mechanical pencils, for example, and I've got enough space for two of those, as well as a black Sharpie marker. Now, the mechanical pencils I use a lot for measuring and marking things out because they have a fairly fine tipped lead on them, and I can be pretty precise. Obviously, I can be more precise with a marking knife. We'll get to that shortly, but the Sharpie marker is really nice for just doing some rough measuring or putting some rough lines onto a piece of lumber when I'm breaking it down at the beginning of a project. So I find it pretty helpful to have that nice and handy. Sometimes you always want some pieces of paper to write on, so I've got a pocket here that either my cell phone can go into or some little recipe cards so that I've got something really handy to write any kind of measurements and things down that I want to keep track of during a project. Right here I've got a space for a small 6-inch ruler, and I actually made it big enough or wide enough to fit the Woodpecker's 6-inch ruler because down the road I do plan on buying one of those. So I went online, I looked up the measurements, the thickness, the width of it, and so on, and made that pocket accordingly. Now, right here, there's actually a little magnet piece, and the intent of that was to be able to put screws or drill bits, but I've found it pretty helpful for this really small engineer's square because I like to use that when I'm checking squareness on a piece of stock, either once I've glued it up or when I've jointed it, whatever. But really, really helpful to have a small square, really handy, and I find that's working great for that at the present time. Down lower on the apron, I've got a spot for a larger square right here. It's a 6-inch square, but it is going to end up being a spot for the Woodpecker's 642 square down the road. Once again, I went online, looked up the size, all the dimensions, built that pocket accordingly. On the right thigh here, we've got a nice spot for a tape measure. I actually stole this piece of metal for the tape measure holder off of my dad's old carpenter's apron that he had, and he passed away about 20 years ago this summer, so it's kind of nice to have that there. A little bit of a memory of him with this apron every time that I go and I use it. And just below that, I've got a little hook that I can use to put a rag, a damp rag. When I'm doing a glue up, I can have a rag to just be nice and handy to be able to wipe things off with. And right beside that, we've got the Pica pencil. If you haven't ever used one of these Pica pencils, they are great. They've got a nice thicker lead so they don't break as easy if you're going across some rough boards, but you can get different colored leads for them, yellows and reds. The reds mark really well on walnut or other dark wood, just so you know. And lastly, in this bottom corner, I've got a spot for my marking knife, and really handy spot to have it on the apron. It's really made my woodworking more efficient so that I can actually do things just faster in the shop. I kind of got tired of mainly chasing this tape measure down. Sometimes it would be at the far end of the shop, sometimes it's on the bench, but to be honest, it's never right where I wanted it all the time. So being able to put it right here where I can get nice easy access to it, where I don't have to look to be able to put that right where it needs to go, super handy, and just makes things so much faster. I do also have some hooks up on the top here, so if you do want to put a pair of safety glasses through one of these hooks, really easy to put one of those on here. I would caution you, if you decide you're going to make one or have your wife or your girlfriend to make one for you, be prepared for some fights. My girlfriend and I definitely butted heads a little bit during this project. I think it maybe strengthened our relationship a little bit, but it also strained it at times as well. So if you're gonna build one of these, you've been warned. I will say the best thing you can probably do if you wanna have a custom woodworking apron is to give Michelle and Patrick a call over at Leather by Dragonfly. They make awesome leather aprons that are custom, and they'll put the pockets on exactly where you want for all your core tools. So good shout out to Michelle and Patrick there at Leather by Dragonfly. Definitely when this one wears out, I will be purchasing one from them. So until next time, go build something beautiful.